Hey guys, Darren Carr here, Coach of Wise Pods, and welcome back to another episode of our round review series. On today's episode, we will be reviewing round 13, which was the second week of the mid-season bye. So we saw a lot of decent scores throughout the community season. I think I've even seen up to 2,200, but how did my team go? So I took a bit of a hit, which I sort of expected a little bit this week. Scored a 1948, just where my team's sort of at. Definitely a primo behind, and that's definitely hurting me a lot, especially in these, pretty much a best 22 round, but luckily it was a best 18, as I did have quite a few stinky scores in there. But where did it hurt sort of the most? Definitely my midfield is just all over the shop. Bontempelli's been underperforming all year. Merritt's sort of been the only consistent one. I've got Tom Green, Oliver, and Saligo in there, and then I've got just a bunch of rookies. Yeah, it's just all over the shop, so I'm looking to sort of fix that up in the next couple of weeks and really starting to consolidate the midfield a lot more, even though there's not many options, honestly. All the midfield options are just shocking at this point in time, and they all have their downsides, so I'm just going to try and do my best to get to the best guys that are pretty consistent, so really targeting Strong this week. I think he's the one to grab for me. Like his run towards the back end of the year. I know it's not great for maybe the next 2 or 3 weeks, but I think he's just consistent, and he has been all year. So here's one I'm heavily targeting just to improve my midfield. What else sort of hurt? English again, 77, really poor. When the likes of people still have Cherry, who scored like a 129. That's really disappointing. That's 50 points right there. Zorko was probably a little bit unders from what I would have expected in that game. While it wasn't a perfect matchup, I still thought he would have gone, closer to 110. McKenna probably hurt him a little bit. It'd be interesting to see what happens in terms of McKenna for the remainder of the year. But I still think he's still got that role, and there was no concerns there. So not regretting picking him up, but definitely would have liked the better option in Goulden, who gave you that Insta award, 151. Yeah, it was pretty much riding the wall. I just didn't listen to it. Just hadn't seen too much from him, so I thought go to someone else instead. And yeah, that one hurt a little bit, especially because he was cheaper. And yeah, what can you do, I guess? Besides that, defense was pretty good. Well, these two technically are my forwards, so they'll swing forward at some stage. But yeah, happy with them. Just a quick note with Sexton. I've noticed a bit of the fantasy community probably getting a bit too stable with him. At the end of the day, I still am concerned with his job security after his bye. So obviously he's bye now, and if he's going to play when in round 15? Obviously, Weller's due back, so does that mean Sexton goes out? I thought he played a pretty good game. Like, wasn't super contested from him. I think he only had like 2 or 3 possessions in the contested stat, and he had maybe 7 or 6 sort of turnovers. So his job security is probably not as high as I'd want it to be. So he's definitely one I'm watching, but it's not something I'm looking at trading out this week. Just given his break even so low, if he does end up playing next week, then it's a no-brainer to keep him, right? But I'm got in my trade plans that if he doesn't play, then he's definitely one I'm jumping off pretty quickly. So just make the necessary adjustments there with your trade plans for around next week anyway. So Nick Dacos went out with a bit of a corky to the shin, so he was subbed out, I think, partway through 3/4 time. He also copped a fair bit of attention from Neil Bullen. So yeah, 62 was definitely not what I wanted, especially considering I only just traded him in a couple weeks ago. So yeah, really disappointing for him. I think he'll be fine this week. He should be back up. I think he's named for it as a test. I got the injury report up, and I'll show that a bit later on. But yeah, I think we're pretty good there. It was nice to see Nick Martin and Whitfield put up nice 120s. It's good to see Whitfield specifically do that after what has been a very poor sort of, past 2 months or so. But now these are the tough games that we sort of identified. We'll see how he goes in the next 2, especially with that tag coming, and we know how it's restricted Port Adelaide are. But we'll wait and see on that one. I'm not looking at moving him off. Closey's one that's definitely needs to go this week for me. He's just plummeting in cash now. What he lose? 15k, break even at 87. So his break even's just climbing a little bit. Didn't sort of give me the reward for holding him as such. 55 was pretty disappointing. So Pink's just slowly putting up some decent scores and just slowly climbing in cash. And I think some people are even targeting this week just because we're looking for defender rookies, and he's a playing defender rookie. He is making some coin, but I don't know how good his job security is, but is had his buy as well, so maybe he's one. If you're really desperate for a defender rookie, you can jump on. We already spoke about the midfield, but Soligo and Oliver, definitely ones that I'm looking at jumping off as well this week. Oliver's just been shocking, honestly. I know he's been sort of consistent with his decent, 80s to 90s, but in that game should have been much better. My only concern, he does have North, West Coast, and Essendon. Or maybe not Essendon's not as easy, but definitely those two nicer matchups in the after his bye. So could probably hurt a little bit, but I just don't see him being that same sort of player that he has been. Good to see him tick over that 80%. First time for the year, besides opening round. But yeah, I just don't see him being that accumulator that he once was. He's not tackling as hard. Definitely not getting as much chip, and he's getting a lot very burnt from his teammates as well. So he's definitely not a happy camper there at the moment. So I'm just looking to jump off, use the money on his head. His break even's up a little bit now, so I'm just going to jump off of him and hopefully get 2 mid prices up to 2 primos this week. Mexican was awesome. I think we all knew that he was going to go really well in that game. So anyone that went captain there would have been really happy, especially after missing some big VCs from Goulden and Flanders, who I did end up VCing in the end there. Was really nice to get a solid 163 as vice captain, and I obviously took that. And obviously that St Kilda matchup is something that we need to target more in the future. And we obviously know that Zorka has him this week, so he will definitely be a big VC option, especially with the Friday night game, which is the first game for this weekend, which is a bit different. Obviously, we used to having Thursday night games, and we don't have them anymore, which is a bit unfortunate. I did like the Thursday night games. Brought the weekend a little bit closer for me, but I guess in terms of fantasy, we get the teams a day earlier and have a bit more time to sort out what we want to do. So will be interesting to see, say the least. Heaney went alright, probably a bit unders from what I would have expected. 108, 2 goals, 2 behinds, so just probably didn't get as much as the open space of the marks, and probably didn't get as many tackles as I would have thought, but he's still trucking along. McRae's going at his bye. I've made that decision. He's just one. I need to hold him for 1 more week. Please, just don't be dropped. Just stay and do what you need to do. Power, another 70. Just that's what he does. His roll was still pretty good from what I thought. Still 50%, or it actually probably had even more. Oh no, sorry, 40%. Dropped below 40%. Ugh. And that's the inclusion of Simkin that sort of was the concern, which quietly he had a really good game. We'll get into that a little bit when we get to the games, but a little bit concerned. I was a little bit concerned with Tom Powell this week, but he did start on fire and sort of slowed in the back half. But again, it was West Coast, so something to be mindful of, and maybe someone we need to look at trading out at some stage. But I'm not looking to fill that hole. He's putting up 70s, so it's not too far off the most F6s where you may have a cold roll or maybe you have a Baker, stuff like that, Quickly, +3, -3. Has to go Flanders. 163 as a VC. You can't get past that. He's been a great option most of the year and been super consistent, really. Like, he's only dropped below 100, once since round 4, I think, when most of us picked him up. So, he's been awesome there. -3. Oh, where do I start? Won't give it to Nick Dacos because he was injured and got tagged. I'll just go... Oh, goddamn. This is tough. I'll just go Oliver. I'm just expecting more than that, honestly. In what was probably an easier matchup, given that the injuries at West Coast... not West Coast. The Pies, that's... I thought they were a better matchup than that, and he just did not do anything, so... He will be going for me this week. Quickly reviewing my trades. So I did end up bringing in Dowling after a bit of tossing and turning. I was just a bit concerned with the likes of McMullen's job security, thinking that he would be the sub, so I sort of navigated away from that. And the other option I was looking at was Will Dawson, which luckily I didn't go with either because he was subbed out on a 0 quite early on. So yeah, really happy that I picked up Dowling the first week in, which allowed me to spend have a bit more money in the bank to do a few things this week. Overall, was pretty happy with my trades. Obviously, Fisher didn't went really well, 115. Great debate, well, return, I guess, for the team. He's going to be a solid one in the forward line, and Zorko, like I said, bit unders, but I think he'll be good in the long term anyway. So I'm happy to have him in the team and not have to worry about grabbing him this week. Happy with the trade outs in terms, obviously Harley Reid was out. Bonner put up a stinky 37, and if you have him, he absolutely needs to go now. 57k, he's just undoing a lot of that good he did earlier in the season. So he needs to go. And Jeremy Sharp, I was happy to jump off him. No matter how good he's being, his break-even's are up there now, so yeah. The only way that would have been better is if I traded in Goulden instead, but it is what it is. So that's how my team sort of went. What am I ranked? 11,883 points. So, sorry. What am I talking about? 11,883rd. So, yeah. Bit ways back, and I did drop 600 spots this week, but hopefully in the next couple of weeks we are looking pretty. So, quickly looking at my team for this week. Does show my trades already, but I have grabbed Clark and Sarong. These are just trades I'm thinking of so far. There are a couple of different options. Really struggling for a rookie at this point in time, so I'll just sort of throw in a placeholder in there. Sorry guys, I'll take a bit of drink. So I'm jumping off Closey. I think he has to go. I'm jumping off Saligo after he's got a tough matchup this week against Swans. So really been a disappointing pick overall when I picked him up. I think it was, after that 115 against a tough matchup. Then he had a really good run coming, and he's just put up, 70s to 80s pretty much the entire time, and then got subbed out in one of those games. So I'm glad to see the back end of him, and I wouldn't be surprised if he goes 100 plus this weekend. I think he just kind of gives me that vibe that he probably a bit likes the contested ball a little bit more, so he can get more tackles and stuff like that. So that's what we saw in the Port Adelaide game where he got 10 tackles. So yeah, I'm glad to see the back end of him. He has dropped a lot of coin, which is a little bit disappointing. And finally, getting off Oliver. So what I'm pretty much doing is going 2 mid prices and a rookie down up to 2 primos. And I really like Jordan Clark. I like his role. Obviously, his last month has been absolutely ridiculous. I am a little bit concerned. Obviously, he's got the tag coming in at round 16, but I do think he's got a pretty good run for the remainder of the season, and his break even, he's only going to get more expensive, so there's no cheaper time to get on him. I also like that he is quite lowly owned at 13%, so trying to get on those more unique guys to go well for the remainder of the year to get me a bit of a jump up. So I'm looking at him just because he's cheaper, and I need a bit more of the cheaper guys, as I do. I am lacking in the primo department. But yeah, overall for my buys this week, looking pretty good. So it probably doesn't help me at all. So obviously the round 14 guys are on the buy this week. Only running the 25 this week. I did play around with grabbing Kluger as just a fill-in for this week, but I don't think he'll be playing after round 15, just with a few of those main guys coming back, and I think he'll be dropped pretty quickly. So I'm not looking at picking him up, and I'll just run with the 25 this week. And I just need to rely on a few rookies, so hoping a Dowling can put up a decent score. Hopeful that McAuliffe isn't the sub. Hopefully Fraser can put up a decent score. I was really happy with McRae on the weekend. I didn't mention it off the top there, but 68. Did have a few CBAs as well, which was very pleasing as an owner, jumping on him a couple weeks ago. What do you have? 61%. So we know when he has this role, he can score. We've seen his VFL numbers, and they're obviously amazing. He just needs that sort of role, and he can put up some decent scores there. I think he just ran out a bit of legs in the second half. He was on like 40 something in the first half, so hopefully he can put up some decent scores this week against North. We'd be relying on that. I will have a mixture bag of a couple rookies here. Obviously for Garcia's still not playing. He's just a red dot that I'm holding through, which is a little bit not great, but I'm just looking to upgrade elsewhere. It's not hurting my buys at all. We'll be able to loop with Seth Campbell. I may even throw McRae in the forward line. I may take off of Thomas because his scoring rate's been pretty putrid and he does have a tough matchup. So I may end up going, throwing these guys there and looping between these two to see who's there. Maybe if I do pick up a decent rookie, then I may even just VC him there to see how they go first, and I'll play the loop game somehow. So, but how are we looking for round 15? So, still a little bit heavy, especially a lot of rookies, which is the annoying thing. But in terms of primos, got one there, and McRae will be going next week anyway. So, not too bad. I will still probably have 21 playing next week just because I won't have that ruck. But yeah, that's probably enough about my team. Let's get into the games and quickly go through them. There's only 8 games this week, and I'll try and get through them fairly quickly because I think it's a fairly straightforward week in my opinion. I think the buys are pretty straightforward. We've got 6 teams that have off the buys, so you got plenty of players to target. I know a lot of people are targeting a Luke Ryan and the Freo boys, so that's definitely where I'll be looking. But Thursday night game, we saw Richmond beat Adelaide. Win a bit of a upset really. Adelaide's season is a little bit in the bin, which is a bit unfortunate. But we saw Dawson return to a bit of form with his 124. Would have been a pretty good captain option if he went there with the VC. I just don't think most people would have done it given his foot concerns. But it was good to see him bounce back after a pretty poor week, in Melbourne. We saw McInerney do pretty well. He's sort of become that main distributor of halfback. So he's one I'm definitely looking at, but probably it's just not this time of year that I'm looking at these sort of guys, unfortunately. But he looked really good in that game. And it was also a really good matchup. So don't really want to trust it just yet. But if you're really in a tight spot, I don't mind jumping on him. Laird probably didn't do enough for me to really convince me that he's going to be, someone that we can jump on for the remainder of the year. It's someone I'm still going to monitor throughout. Really didn't get his tackle game going in what was probably a super matchup. Maybe he's requires a bit more contested. So we'll see how he goes for the next couple of weeks. But he did have a lot of CBAs, which was a bit pleasing. Let's have a look. Yeah, 77. So got that bump with Crouch there. It was nice to see Dawson back to, 80 plus. That's where we hope to see him for the remainder of the season, but we'll wait and see on that one. So I really do like Dawson. If you're looking at him at some stage, I'm looking to probably jump on him after his bye at some stage, even though his run isn't great, but he's still going to be top of his line as a midfielder. Dowling, definitely as a rookie pick upgrade this week. If you didn't jump on him last week, he's just going to skyrocket in price, and that cash generation is still very important no matter how your buys are looking. The only way I wouldn't be picking up is if you're really struggling and you need to use all 6 of your trades for this week and next week to make sure you have 18 on field next week, then that's the only way I'd be avoiding him. But even if you're going from a 19 on field next week to an 18, I'd still be picking up Dowling. His cash generation is going to be really good, and his job security looked phenomenal in that game. Like, he started on fire, had a poorer second quarter, I think, only had maybe 4 or 5 points, something like that. But yeah, he just absolutely killed it and could have won the game for them, honestly. He could have kicked 2 goals in that last little bit, but unfortunately one didn't make the distance and one went out on the full. So, but his work rate was elite, and he just looks like an accumulator. So definitely one you've got to jump on when you get the opportunity. So there you go, we spoke about him already. I'm jumping off. He's just losing so much coin. Got a few more marks, which was pleasing. He sort of looked like he was spreading a little bit more. Like I saw him on the wing a fair bit, just spreading for the ball and getting some cheap marks. But didn't do enough in the contested ball to get enough possessions, unfortunately. Spent a lot of time on the bench as well. Like 73% of time on ground was pretty piss poor. Glad to move off him. Besides that, from injuries, we saw their ruckman, Struathan, whatever you say. He went out with a bit of groin injury, so I'd say O'Brien's probably got to come back straight in. So a little bit disappointing for him, but I think that's all about it for fantasy relevance. Just a few guys that we need to watch there in Laird, and if you don't have Dawson, then maybe make plans to get on him at some stage with his role definitely improving. Onto the Richmond, we saw Nankovas go pretty big. I would have thought it would be bigger in this matchup, but yeah, he got held pretty well. So if you jumped on him, you'd still be pretty happy. But whether you took the VC or not would be alright. We saw Taranto return, put up a pretty decent score, 108. He's definitely made my watch list. 26 disposals, 4 marks, and 8 tackles. This is just what we know what he can do. He can rack up the ball and be quite a tackling feast in there. So he's one I'm definitely looking at. He could shake up the best 8 midfielders for sure. I just don't think his run's any particularly good. So we have a quick look at that. He is priced at about 800, I believe. Torrento. Yeah, no, 900, sorry. That's what I meant. Just over 900, so it's not too bad. Definitely one of the cheaper options in terms of primo mid, so I don't mind him at that price. What we're looking at their run. So in terms of Richmond, got Hawthorn, then Carlton, which for some reason at an easy matchup now. But then look at that stretch, pretty poor. So it's not particularly friendly, and I'm not one I'm probably realistically looking at when you know you're all this green elsewhere. So just keeping that in mind, but he will be very unique if you're looking for a bit of a unique option in there. Under 2%, and we know he can put up some very big scores. Where are we at? Baker put up a decent score, 99. You'll be happy as an owner after what he's gone through. Not sure what his roles was. His role very different? I saw him forward a fair bit as well in that game. Yeah, so his role dropped down to 35%. So a little bit concerning, but he still put up a decent score for you. So until he puts up a bad score, then it's probably just worth holding him. Hopefully he can continue scoring decently in whatever role he's playing. If he plays forward, then yeah, it's probably not the most friendly. But if he goes back, then I definitely can see him continuing his score rate. So just keep an eye on that one. Bolton, 64. Pretty disappointing for anyone that picked him up. Kicked a 3 behind, so definitely could have been closer to a 90 if he kicked straight. But he's just traditional to do. Kick a fair few behinds. What was his CBAs as well? Up to 50. So definitely prefer him in the midfield over a Baker, which is interesting to see. Besides that, we had a few rookies in Seth Campbell, and I'm still holding him like me. Put up a 43. I didn't end up looping it on just because, yeah, that wasn't enough. I thought they missed a few tackles in this game, honestly. I was going to put up a tweet, but I just thought there's no point. An extra 8 points or whatever it was going to be a 51, and I probably still would have taken that on anyway. So, and it was unfortunate to see McAuliffe as the sub, which he put up a decent, 20 in a 12% game time, so we know he can score. Fingers crossed he can break his way into that side again. I don't know who they dropped though. Maybe Rouse Smith. He was pretty quiet. Kaczynski won't be dropped. He needs to be in that side. Cumberland kick 3 goals. Yeah, I just don't know if he can break into the side. Prestia was subbed out. No, he wasn't subbed out, but he was set on the bench for the remainder. I think he had a bit of a calf tightness, so big watch on if he plays, and maybe that opens the door for McAuliffe. But besides that, it's just, one that's a bit unfortunate, but probably not worth trading out unless you absolutely need to. We'll move on to the second game. We have the Bulldogs and the Brisbane Lions. The Brisbane Lions got the Chockies there at Marvel. So we saw Bontempelli go 93, kicking 3 goals, had less than 20 disposals. It's got a little bit of attention from, what's his name, Berry, wherever he may be. I can't actually see him here. Yeah, Jared Berry. Just a bit of run with roll, so he didn't really get too much else of the ball like in transition, so it was just sort of stuck up forward a fair bit, and luckily kicked 3 goals to really come home late to get to a decent score. Dale, an 85, probably a bit unders for owners there, but he's still trucking along. One I'm still keeping an eye on for top 6. Probably not quite there yet. English is poor. Just got dominated in the hitouts. I know it was a tougher matchup, but I still thought he'd put up like a 90 or so. That was just pretty poor from him. 6 free kickers against hurts. McRae, 20 disposals, 4 marks, 1 tackle. Probably just didn't get quite enough tackles in this game. Did he? I thought he had some CBAs as well, which was strange when I saw him in there. Yeah, we jumped up to 28%. So nothing major, but slightly improving, I guess. But it didn't really reflect in his scoring. So I don't really know what to really take from that. He's just a bit washed, and I'm lucky. Definitely jumping off him next week, unless he's going for me. It has to go for me. Has to go. Keep thinking of the name, not the actual score. So we saw Riley Sanders also put up a 54. Pretty disappointing for those that still held him, thinking he'd be sort of an 80-90 guy. And Freya putting up 40 was pretty disappointing, but his job security looks pretty good, so he should be fine there. On to Brisbane. Lockie Neal, for anyone that picked him up, would have been very happy with a 128. He was just everywhere in that game. 38 disposals, 6 marks, 2 tackles, and 2 goals, which was just elite. Good work rate as well, 88%. So he was just everywhere. Probably not going to expect that every week. I don't think he's that sort of guy anymore. We'll definitely get attention this week. Who are they playing? They are playing St Kilda, so he'll probably get the win taker tag. I would be very surprised if they look elsewhere. Besides that, we had Zorko put up a nice 96. Quite happy with that. Did go back in price a little bit, so he's a little bit cheaper for those that didn't pick him up. So definitely I would be one to jump on there. Josh Dunkley had a very poor game. His first poor one for the year. After starting pretty hot, honestly, I think he kicked the first goal or the second goal. So he started pretty well. Just really got shut down after that. I don't think it was a roll as such. It was just just a poor game, I thought. Another one we need to mention was McKenna. He obviously returned with in that side and took a lot of the points off Zorko in the first half until he got injured. So a bit of a watch there for me, with hopefully he's out for an extended period of time, just so Zorko can accumulate back there, especially this week. Reveal put up a nice 66 for those that have him, still making some good coin, and Loman as well, 60. You'd be pretty happy with that. 62, sorry. Morris, anyone that jumped on him would have been happy with a 60. Besides that, I think that's pretty much all it from that game. Move on to my boys. Hawthorn beat GWS at Tassie by, 6 points in the end. So really pleased as a Hawthorn supporter that we got up in that game. One I didn't really have in our favour, but we take it. Again, not really looking at anyone from Hawthorn in terms of fantasy. Will Day's probably the only one you're looking at. Like, he put up a nice 109, but he had a really good game in that. 10 tackles, 6 marks, a couple of free kicks against. His time on ground's improving. Just doesn't get enough pill to be, a superstar and be one of the best players in the competition in terms of fantasy. So maybe in some years, but he's got some time. But I'm really not looking at anyone else. Dylan Moore, he's popped up for a couple big scores in the last couple of weeks, but an 83, if you have him, you're pretty happy with that. He's pretty consistent there. Could have kicked a lot straighter, kicked 2 behinds, which is a bit unusual for him. He's been so accurate so far this season. I think he's going out like 13 goals and 3 behinds in set shots. So yeah, he's pretty reliable in front of goal. So you'd be pretty happy with him if you have him. Newcomb, not longer looking at him. I don't know why he's still in the watch tag. I'll just keep him there. And Amon as well. I'm not looking at him. He's not going to be top 6, and it can definitely go. That's probably about does it for Hawthorn. We'll move on to GWS, where we saw Whitfield got put up a nice 123 with 30 disposals, 12 marks, and 3 tackles. We sort of penciled this one in to be a pretty good game for him. But yeah, so don't be fooled in. I probably wouldn't trade him in from this game, especially with the run he has. So don't be fooled in on that one. Just sort of sit back and watch how it plays out. He's probably just on the cusp of top 6 defender. We saw Peatling, who was high on my radar, prior to the bye, that he put up a nice 98. For anyone that jumped on, you'd be very pleased. Had a lot more of the CBAs this week, which was pleasing to see. So 60%. Oh wait, sorry, that's not him, is it? That is 6, yeah. So 60%, so you'll be pretty happy with that. Just tackled his way there. 10 tackles, 18 disposals. I think he did slow down pretty late as well. So he could have gone for a massive score, but you'd be pretty happy with that, especially because he has forward status. So running with him, he's making some decent coin there. Tom Green. He should probably have the -3, but I'll give him the pass this week, given that he got a bit of attention from Nash in I think it was the first half, and then he sort of got released after that. So I don't really know what happened, honestly. Just sort of was on track for a decent score. I think it was on like a 54 or something like that at half time, and just had a shocking second half. Just didn't really find the ball. I think Hawthorn got on top of them a little bit, and he just lost all influence on the game. So I'm just fingers crossed. I don't think he's a trade. I still think he's going to turn it around at some stage, but if he jumped off a couple weeks ago, then you've absolutely would have been in a much better spot. So just in terms of my team, I think he's a name that I can't trade out, knowing how good he can be. It's just I need him to find some form, and maybe with the return of, say, Josh Kelly and what's his name, Canelio, that probably helps him a little bit. You'd think it wouldn't, but Josh Kelly is a test this week. I know Canelio is still 1 to 3 weeks away, so maybe just a bit more help in the midfield there, help freeze him up a little bit, but we'll have to wait and see on that one. I'm just looking at holding him. Besides that, there was a few rookies in this game to mention. Ollie, I know a few people jumped on him, put up a 41, so very disappointing there, especially at his nearly 400k price range. Angwin, same, he's close to that price range as well. I don't think anyone has Cadman anymore, and people that jumped on McMullen, he put up a 34 after being the sub, so you'd be pretty pleased with that he got there, and only 24% time on ground, and he had such a good break even anyway, so he would have made some coin. But that will do it for that game. We'll move on to the West Coast and North, where North got their first win. So, congrats to them. Really, no one from West Coast. I know I've still got LEO as a watch. It's just more of a, what's it called? Sign of respect, I'll say. Just because he was a pretty good pick to start the year. So, I have him there. But yeah, really not looking at anyone from them at all. Just looking through the names. I did have a bit of interest in Duggan because I know he has a pretty good run and his role is sort of that Liam Ryan role, but I think he finished on the bench with a bit of a concern, and I think he's a test for this week. So I don't know. I'm showing you this because I think I was the only one that was interested in, but he's in concussion protocols, so he is unfortunately not going to be playing this week. But on to a more fantasy relevant team in North. So we saw Simpkin return and put up a big score with 132. 28 disposals, 5 marks and 7 tackles, 2 goals as well. So he came back in a big way. Also came back into the midfield, which was surprising. I did show this before, but I'll show it again if it wants to load. He pretty much had, pretty much highest CBAs behind LDU, which is something I didn't really expect. Why isn't it showing? Come on. 65%. Oh my god. What are you doing? You're doing this to me, are you? Yeah, so 65%. Waterloo was sort of the highest, and LDU was equal with him. So that was really interesting to see, and something I'll get into a little bit was Sheasel obviously being pushed out a bit more, and he went forward a fair bit, so I am very concerned there. He was sort of my target this week until this sort of happened, so I'm just not playing around with that, unfortunately. I just don't see that as a fantasy relevance role, and I'm just going to avoid that as much as possible. So I'm glad to be off that train and, be a bit more unique throughout the remainder of the season. So he is definitely one that you could look at this week. I know he is in the 500Ks. Simpkin, 580K. He also has a pretty good run. So this should be a pretty good matchup. Melbourne have been pretty easy recently. It's the back half of the year that's really good. Look at that section. So if you can hold him throughout the year, then I don't mind that. If you think he can get you that far, obviously he has a great break even. I'm just looking at his previous scores, and I don't know if I could do it like 60s, 40s. Does have nice time on ground, I will say that. But yeah, he's put up a couple 40s just with his role sort of being all over the place. But is this the role we can expect from him? When he played last at St Kilda, did he play a full game? I think he did. Yeah, 82%. Sorry. So I don't know if I could jump on it. If you're really desperate and you're looking for, that that sort of price range, and if it gets you, maybe you can go him and another guy, and you're sort of jumping off a couple of rookies, then I'd probably do it. That gets you an extra person on field, gives you that, especially in your position like mine, where you sort of try and play a bit of catch-ups to get a few more primos on field, then yeah, I don't mind it. He definitely can put up a decent score, and was one I looked at in the preseason, thinking that if he had this role, he could score really well, and we have seen it in the past. He's usually an 800k guy easily, so he's well unders. What is he down on? He's 104k unders from what he started the season, so yeah, I don't mind it as long as he can keep that role, and that's something I'm not 100% sure, because I feel like he's going to get switched around with Sheasel a fair bit. So maybe 1 week Sheasel has 80%, and 1 week Simkin has up there as well. So probably just not going to jump on them at all. We saw Cherry go 129, so you're absolutely not trading out of him at this point. He has just been super consistent, and probably one you can just hold for the remainder of the year. I will say though, he does have quite a tough matchup coming. Like if we just have a look here, he's got. I wouldn't mind this week. Like that's a bit of a one I wouldn't be concentrating on with Collingwood there, just because it is only Darcy Cameron, who is a pretty easy matchup. So don't worry about that one. It's the ones after that there I'm concerned about. So maybe if you're looking to move him off, then maybe you can make some plans next week, especially if you don't have a Gorn. I think that's a pretty easy swap. Just go from a Cherry to a Gorn, especially depending if you can, you're in round 15, you really want to jump off round 15 guys if you're heavy, but if you can make your trades work, then maybe even in round 16 you can make that jump to any ruck you can go to. So I still think Gorn's number 1 and Marshall's number 2, so do that with what you will. I wouldn't be looking at English or even a Grundy, so you probably want those top 3, so but wouldn't be prioritising it just yet. Fisher, everyone's pretty much jumped on Fisher, so no really need to talk about him. He went really well. Spoke about a little bit with Sheasel, 104, so you'd be okay with that, but yeah, he's still dropping in coin. Concerning with his role, somehow still had 30 disposals. He just somehow gets disposals off no matter what. Did kick a nice goal as well. A few people jumped on LDU, being a bit cheaper with a decent run. Wouldn't be too disappointed with their 96. Still making some coin there. Yeah, I don't really know what to say. He just was a little bit unders from what you would have inspected into this nice matchup. Power, we spoke about him already. I'm not too concerned about a 70. And Pinky down the bottom. Wilson was also a 0. Pink 30 set 9. And I don't think anyone else is super relevant there. So we'll move on to the next game. So we have St Kilda, who beat Gold Coast. Just quietly, I just wanted to go off on a bit of a tangent here. Gold Coast were absolutely robbed in this game. I've seen a bit of the highlights, and the goals that they gave to St Kilda were just ridiculous. Like that last one to Ben King was definitely not there. That was it Ben King or Max King? Sorry, to Max King was not there. They've obviously come out and said that that's not a goal. That shouldn't have been a free kick, and yeah, it's a bit unfortunate for Gold Coast Gold Coast supporters there. There's also another one early on. Baker just flopped and got a goal out of that as well. There was also another situation where I can't remember the exact player. I think it may have been a heel. He's running like nearly 50 metres and it wasn't called running too far, and that ended up in a goal as well. So they got 3 easy goals just from poor umpiring decisions. So I would be fuming as a Gold Coast supporter there. They absolutely got robbed. But in terms of fantasy, we saw St Kilda put up some okay scores, like Sinclair sort of bounced back with a 117. Anyone that still has him. Marshall, 107, you'd be okay with that. I would have thought he would be much better in terms of this matchup, obviously, against Ned Moyle. But Ned Moyle still held his own, realistically. I bet him in the hit-out zone. Just didn't allow Marshall to get as many disposals as you would have thought. I thought he was an easy sort of 25 disposals to 30 disposals for him, but he did okay. You definitely probably wouldn't have taken a 107 as a VC, especially with a few of the bigger scores coming. Wangani Malira, it's just been a bit below par and this is what I sort of flagged at the start of the season. Like, he just seems to be that 90 to 100 guy most weeks. Like, sometimes he puts up these stinker scores, sometimes he puts up these ceiling scores that really just make him average, that 90 area. Which, even if I look at him now, Wanganeen Malera, he's averaging 98. So I think he's like 5 points better off since the start of the season. So he's been an okay pick. Just probably, not quite breaking into the top 6, unfortunately, and maybe at some time in the luxury season you can move off him. Jack Steele, 84, disappointing again, 8 tackles, so I don't know. I don't really know what to say about him. He doesn't look like he's injured, but just not quite getting the fantasy scores that we sort of expected, so he's not high on my watch list in terms of needing to grab him, especially because he has a bye next week anyway, so won't be until after that if I do actually look at him. I don't think his run's any good either. If we have a quick look here. St Kilda. So yeah, got Brisbane this week. Tough matchup. Into Port Adelaide, West Coast, into Sydney. Obviously very tough matchups. Maybe after that I can look at him in the Adelaide game. Maybe I'll put that in the book to target him there. West Coast, Richmond, Geelong, Carlton to end of the season. Wouldn't mind that at all. Sorry, I keep pressing the wrong tab. Besides that, Paddy Dow still doing his thing. Would have been a decent starting pick if he actually played at the start of the season. Windhager, if anyone is still holding him, he probably needs to go as well. Bonner's the one that absolutely needs to go this week. I don't think you can hold him. And same with Wilson. I think he was on a shocker. I think he was on maybe 0 points just in the first half. I don't think he touched it. And yeah, put up a 34. So he's going backwards in price. And I think both those guys need to go, unfortunately, if you have them. Moving on to Gold Coast, where we saw an absolute feast for the defenders. So we saw Flanders go 163, Sexton 130, Euland 124, Jeffrey go 120, Collins go 112, and they all had well over 10 marks as well. So they just did not mind chipping it around in the back half, and yeah, I don't really know what to say. It's the Saints. Saints is a very good matchup for defenders, so definitely one we need to target it in the future. And because St Kilda still won, they're not gonna worry about it. They're just gonna continue to allow them to chip the ball around. I don't think every team's gonna do what Gold Coast have done. Like, obviously they were very passive and probably should have been a bit more aggressive to win the game, but in terms of fantasy scores, I was very pleased to have both these two on my side, and I think most people did anyway. Anyone that still has Euland as a rookie, you'd be flying at the moment. He is probably single-handedly saved your season if you're in a position like mine, or you could be up there battling for the Hilux, because that has been a very good pick to start the season. I think he's up to nearly 600k now too. Is very secure on that side. Anderson, 98. You're probably not too disappointed in that. About where he should be. Probably really lucky that he didn't cop this Windhager tag, honestly. I don't know why they went to Took, but I would have absolutely gone to Anderson. He's more a damaging player, I would have thought. And also in more form. So, yeah, that was a very weird decision from St Kilda, but it still paid off, very luckily. Besides that, closely 55, he's going for me this week, and I think he should go for your team too. Graham, if you're still holding him as well, and Miller. It's your perfect time to jump off of him. I don't know many people that have him, but yeah, he's one that needs to go. He's been shocking. I don't know why he's still in the watch target. Alright, we'll smash through the last 3 games where we got Sydney, who beat the Cats at SCG. So we had Gordon go 151, killed it. 37 disposals, 8 marks, 5 tackles, and kicked a very late goal, which was very pleasing for those that picked him up. And yeah, he should be, top 8 mid from here, you'd think. As long as he can keep taking these scores over, I think he's very secure there, and one you could jump on this week. I don't mind him there. His run, again, isn't great, but run this time of year is more than I normally would look at it. Like, I'd personally be looking at run more than value, but it's so difficult to tell at the moment with these midfielders. So, yeah, I can only recommend just jumping on him. He's going to go up in price and be around that mark anyway, and be one you can hold for the remainder of the year. So, I don't mind that there. Heaney, if you don't have him, still jump on him. He's a forward, so that's sure as up your forward line. And Grundy, anyone that's still holding him, has been okay. So I wouldn't be too stressed there. Probably not making a ruck trade this time of the year, just given you're not really going to an upgrade because you've only got Cherry to go to, who's already had his buy. So not looking at anyone there. I think that was it for this side. What is that? Roberts is still there. Anyone that's holding him, he needs to go as well. He scored a 52 when a break even to 114. He's just undoing everything. But onto Geelong, not really too many fantasy relevant players here. We had Holmes, he would have put up a 95 and was a top scorer for their team, so not too concerned with him or anyone that's still holding him. Yeah, he's been a very good pick. And a Myers and a Stewart, and a Stewart put up a 78. Got a bit of attention from a James Jordan, but still put up a okay score. That's just what Stewart is these days. And Myers put up a 70, so you wouldn't be too upset with that. On to Essendon, where we saw Carlton beat Essendon by 36 points, I think it was. Yeah. So Martin put up a nice 120, no concerns there. Did he have any kick-ins this week? It's probably one I think I want to check. Essendon. One. He had one kick-in, so he still hasn't got that role. Definitely looks like they're going to prefer Graham, Ridley, and then obviously Redmond when he comes back. Which, quietly, is he due back anytime soon? Redmond. Where is he? Did I skip over him? Redmond hamstring. So he should be out for another week. So that's good for Martin, who we are a little bit concerned with his role. He did kick 2 goals too. I didn't actually get to watch this game, but yeah, 2 goals too. I don't know if he actually spent more time forward. I might have to suss at that. Merritt put up a safe 100, even though he was tagged in this game by Chincotta. So that was very pleasing as an owner, just for him to put up a decent score. Definitely, yeah, it was a tough matchup, so I didn't sort of expect too much from him. But yeah, 100 in a tag game, you take that every day of the week. He sort of tackled his way there as well. 11 tackles. Quickly looking at Martin's role, he played 75% forward time, so yeah, maybe a little bit of concern there, but he still scored well, high time on ground. I don't know, I still think he's going to be top 6, but just one to monitor. Maybe if you don't have him, then maybe don't jump on him. Maybe go the cheaper options and say a Clark and back them in a bit more. Caldwell put up a 94, so you're pretty happy with that as a forward option. He's definitely probably top 6 for me. In Ridley, anyone that jumped on would be pretty happy with the 91. He looks like that main distributor off halfback. Plenty of marks, plenty of disposals. Yeah, and kick-ins as well, so pretty happy with him there. On to Carlton, not many people fantasy relevant here. Keeping an eye on Newman if he's going to be a top 6 defender for the remainder of the season. Probably not really showing his ceilings from the back end of last year. Walshy put up a sub-poor score with a 79. I think he caught, maybe did catch a bit of attention. I'm not too sure. I didn't really watch this game, but yeah, maybe a Satterfield went with him a little bit. He plays a bit of a role. Guelphy, if he could have gone with him, probably not. I just looking at another one to mention at Essendon. Hyde put up a 56, so it was always bound to happen for him to drop a lower score. So enjoy the cash gen right happens. I think that would have dried up pretty quickly this week. I'm not sure what his break-even would have been now, but he's been a pretty good pick for recently. But maybe it's time to jump off of him. Just he's got you through to his buy and can probably be one you jump off now. Walsh is definitely one of my trade targets next week. I think he is absolutely one that we need to be targeting. Same with Martin. So if I have a quick look at both of their runs, so you got Walsh who goes Geelong and Richmond straight after his bye, and then you got Merritt who goes West Coast and Geelong. So I think you need to get both of them. If I had to pick one, or obviously I've got Merritt already, so I'd probably prefer his run a little bit more, just being a bit more consistent. And yeah, I think you both need to have these guys, and you need to make both plans to get both of them. That was a lot of boths, but just this way I feel about both of them. Yeah, so definitely here's my trade plans next week. He is cemented in that side pretty much. Crisp, it's probably time to jump off of him now. He's been a pretty good pick to start the year, but just putting some backward scores now, unfortunately. And I think it's all coming down to he's just playing more ruck time again. He's just, yeah, I don't like when he plays this ruck role. Wait until Pitnett's back. When is he back? Something I can look at. Pitnett is back, so maybe he can hold for one more week and then see how he goes. But assuming he's back, then maybe hold for one more week and trade him out his bye, and he can put up a decent score for you. Because I think he's up against. No, he's on the bye this week. Sorry, what am I talking about? Yeah, he's on the bye this week, so he would go this week. He'd have to go this week, I think. That's all it from that game. We'll move on to the final game. Probably get this done in under an hour. Come on, load up. So we saw the Pies beat Melbourne. Melbourne are pretty demoralised at this point in time. Well, we saw Crisp go 104. Pretty happy with that in terms of if you picked him up. Yeah, he's doing really well, making some coin. Cal's even got him in his top 6 for the remainder of the season, which is pretty bold, I thought. I'm not super convinced that he holds this role once, the likes of Tom Mitchell comes back, but Tom Mitchell's now out for 5 to 7 weeks. The goalie's due back pretty soon. Obviously, Dacos is there. So, it's been a pretty good trade, I think, especially with Tom Mitchell out for a little while longer. But, yeah, I'm not super bullish on him holding that role for the remainder of the season. But he'll get you through most of the luxury season. We saw Kluger come in for his first game in a while, and I know a few people are looking at him, but I think off the set at the top, I don't think he will play post his bye, so you may get 1 week out of him. And I get it, he may make you 50k, but you'll trade him out after that, because you see the injury report, you've got, where is he? Hoskin Elliott due back in 2 weeks, so that's this week, then the bye, then he's back after the bye, so that'll instantly replace his spot. You've got a Jai Richards, who they're quite heavily favoured, so he probably comes back in as well. Yeah, so those are the 2 ones that I'm mainly looking at. So I think his job security is pretty shaky, so I wouldn't be jumping on that, especially because he's around 15. I don't think it really helps you in the buys up too much. Harrison put up a nice 71 for the owners there, kicked 3 goals. McRae put up a nice 68, so happy with him there. Both have been very good picks. Spoke about Dacos for that injury. He should be fine. He's named as a test. People jumped on Dean, put up a 55, making some coin, so he's pretty good there. And Sullivan, probably one that will be first to go. Just isn't putting up the scores that you wanted. Did he have any CBAs as one thing I maybe need to look at? 40% CBAs, so not too bad. Yeah, was really pleasing there. Where'd the CBAs go? So Bro McCreary got CBAs taken off to McRae, so that was good. And yeah, it worked for them. They won, so hopefully they keep that. For me, in terms of an owner, keep clicking on the same black tab. And the final team, we got Melbourne. We got Gawn there, 148, killed it. It was pretty much writing on the wall that he was going to go pretty big, and he just stands up for his team. He's a captain. Yeah, just been such a good pick all year. He's put up some major stealing scores, and I think he's the highest scoring player for the year. Well, he's averaging 121. Yeah, he'd have to be up there. How many scores of 1 140 plus 1, 2, 3, 4, and a couple 130s in there too. So 4 plus 140s, 2 130s, and 1 120. That's kind of ridiculous. He's been pretty much a solid captain option every single week. So one I'm definitely looking at for the remainder of the season. His run is also pretty decent, I thought. Have a quick look. For those that don't have him, Melbourne. So a tougher run up actually, which is surprising. I wouldn't have thought West Coast were a tough matchup. I know these two are. Essendon have been, but after that, yeah, something to consider. I think he's going to be top scorer of the season anyway, so he's one to jump on at some stage. Salem did pretty good as a 95, as a cheaper guy. Anyone that jumped on him a couple weeks ago would be very pleased. He looks pretty good off halfback, honestly, being that main distributor. Probably just not getting as much, junk time as what we sort of expect from him, just given that Melbourne aren't winning at the moment. So maybe when they do sort of turn it around, he'll get more ball. Oliver, we spoke about him. He needs to go, and I think he's high priority. And Christian Petrarca also got injured, and I think he's out for an extended period of time with some broken ribs, punctured lung, and a spleen issue. So that will open up a pretty big hole in the midfield for Melbourne. So have a quick look at who sort of took CBAs there. So obviously Petrarca out pretty early on. We saw Viney. So it's pretty much purely Pickett, Viney, and Oliver. So what did Pickett score in the end? Pickett scored a 93. What's his price at? Ooh. 59. He's not a bad option, actually. Now that I'm looking at it, he's not a bad option at all. Just sort of a big watch for me. He's obviously got the bye this week, so probably not one trade in this week, but maybe one, later on, even next week. If you're bullish, you can jump on him. If he's going to keep this role, someone we might need to look out for. If Jones comes in and replaces Petrarca, they might look to fill it in a bigger body and help out Viney a little bit. So, but I don't mind him at that price. He can definitely score, and we have seen him do some decent scores, and obviously can kick a few big scores. What he scored? 2 goals, 4. God damn, he did have a fair few shots. Didn't really notice that. Yeah, 2 goals, 4. Wow. In a midfield role. That's interesting. But yeah, that will sort of do it for all the games. Now, just to sort of summarise, I guess, sort of obviously being a shorter week, being a Tuesday night, who are we sort of looking trading out? So, a quick look at that, if I can get it up. So, trade out targets has to be Closey. I think Bonner's probably number 1 for me. He's just dropping major coin, and he's got a lot of money in his head, so I think he needs to go. Dusty Wilson's probably number 2. It's a very similar situation. Break even, dropping a lot of coin. Yeah, a lot of coin on his head. So he's one that can go, get you to a decent player. Then I have the likes of, Closey, Oliver, and where is he? If anyone that's still got a Stewart there, or a Took as well. There he is. I skipped over him. So I do really like these 5 options that need to go. And then besides that, it will just be, buy players. Make sure you have your 22 on the field this week, or 18 at minimum. And keep moving forward. Make sure you're looking at next week, how you're fielding. So there's that. Who are we trading in? Billy Dowling is definitely the rookie upgrade for this week, no matter the buy. I think he needs to come in. Kluger, if anyone is really looking at it, I'm personally not. I get you may get 1 week out of it, but I don't think it's that necessary. And he did rely on 3 goals to get that 79, so that definitely could be a 40 next week. I'm not too fussed about it. Errol Gordon, people are trading him in. I think it's still a pretty good option after what he did on the weekend. He's only got a rise in price. I won't bother. Yeah, I think he'll be around that top 8 mark. Jordan Clark, I'm definitely looking at trading in this week, just with his low price range and what Freo can do. One of the interesting things I have heard is that teams may look to start blocking off that sort of defensive play style that they're looking at their play. So I'd be very surprised if they start to do that, because it's not like it's super threatening, honestly. So we'll have to wait and see. Luke Ryan's obviously highly popular. People need to trade him in. I think that's a good one as well. What is his run like? It's something that we probably need to discuss a little bit. Western Bulldogs, Gold Coast, Sydney, and then it's a really good run. So I definitely recommend picking up him, even a Clark. That's why I'm looking at them there. People are jumping on Simkim, don't mind them there. He's pretty nice at that price range, so people are doing that. Zorko should be number one, I think. I think he has to come in, honestly. I think he is absolutely a target. Oops, hopefully that didn't come through. Zorko is definitely number one for me. I think he'll get instant reward this week with the St Kilda matchup. Anyone still jumping on Fisher? Yeah, I think it's still a good pickup. Sarong, I'm doing the same this week, so that's good. Wouldn't be jumping on Whitfield. I just don't think that's worth it. Like I said, don't get trapped into that. Who else do we have there? Yeah, I think we're covered off all the top five, I reckon. Not looking at a Tom Green, even though he is cheap, just given his form. Not jumping up all day, just because his buys next week. Don't mind a Peatling. If you had to go between a Simpkin or a Peatling, I'd probably go a Simpkin, just given he's the captain. He's got a better role. He's more secure in that side, so that's where I'm at. But really struggling for rookies this week if you're not going Kluger or Dowling. It's really tough. Looks like people are placing placeholders with a Sean Maker, with just a defender. I don't want even a Jed there. People trading him in, probably just a placeholder. I think he's 200k, yep. I wouldn't be jumping on these rookies that are a bit more pricey now either. Wouldn't be doing that. People are trading back into a Hayden Young and a Butters. Don't mind the Butters play. He is probably a little bit more unique now. A few people jumped off, and Rosie should be back, so that should free him up a little bit. People jumping back on Sheasel. Yep. That will sort of do it, I reckon. But yeah, I'll be recording it tomorrow night, if not Thursday morning, for the trade targets, and we will have a bit more time to evaluate our team. So hopefully you've enjoyed, hopefully you had a good weekend in fantasy, and hopefully your team got up and put up some decent scores for you. But I'll leave you guys to it now. Have a good weekend, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye.